Now I'm very excited to bring back a man who's been capping since the old days of capping, let's just say. You've heard him many times on radio shows and sports podcasts all over the nation. Very happy to welcome back Mr. Tony George from DocSports.com. You can follow him on Twitter at TGeorgeSports. Tony, my man, it's a busy time for guys such as me and yourself. How the heck you doing?
Pretty good. When you threw back that cap in a long time. I tell you how long I've been handicapping. I was handicapping back when Nebraska football was relevant. So that's how far I go back.
Oh, yeah.
1892. Boy, I'd like to turn the clock back now. I'll tell you, I'm busy like you, brother, man. I got college basketball, and I brought on a staff capper this year in terms of WNBA and college basketball. And he specializes in small conferences and done real well for me. He does my WNBA too. So I'm not just completely burning the candle at both ends. It's just with NBA and so many games in college basketball, I still got my eye on the prize in football. We're having a great college football year. The second year in a row, we've had a great year, well over 63% year to date. And Top Pick's been killing it. But took a step back in the NFL last couple of weeks, so I've really been kind of focused on that. But as you know, it's 16-hour days, baby, 7 days a week.
It is, especially hockey and NBA and people. It depends how much you want to juggle, and you're not the only one that does partnerships, and that's huge for people out there. And I recommend them. I say, rather than doing a bunch of stuff yourself, doing it wrong, I'd rather get an A on my exam on the smaller stuff, and win bets. Better to leave a loser off the table because you pay juice when you make bets. Just always remember that, folks. But early in the year, I had you on. I think right after I saw you in Vegas, the next week or so, we talked about the good old Huskers, and you talked to me a little bit about the Badgers, and I said right there, I was one of the few Badger fans saying this is not looking good for us, and I said they might as well just be in the pile with Purdue and Illinois, and I didn't think I said Illinois. Never mind. Illinois snuck up on me. I said Purdue, Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin, and one other team. I can't remember who I said. It wasn't Northwestern either. It was one of those Big Ten West teams that I kind of thought, I said they all should be capped the same way. And lo and behold, my team sucked too. And guess what happened? Both of our coaches got fired there, Tony. And I never would have forecasted that.
No,
I mean, maybe Scott Frost, but he also got extended, and they fired him like 2 weeks before they had early and cost themselves an extra $8 million. We can go into that another day, but now we have a game here this week, and the battle of the coaches that were fired, two underachieving teams in my Wisconsin Badgers and your Nebraska Corners. I got to tell you, man, this spread is, it's got Wisconsin favored by 13. We don't know if Casey Thompson's playing. We know that Purdy is injured and not going to play. What's the backup? What's the backup of the backup's name? He's really bad. Smothers. Yeah, you can smother his chances of winning. So, I think the spread is perfect with not knowing what's going on. Wisconsin should be able to run the ball, but if it's Casey Thompson's, I can see them having a shot. It's an ugly game, and I don't even know if I want to watch it, /bet on it, my friend.
Well, I did a podcast right here on StreamYard. I do a podcast about once every other week now. I don't do them as frequently as you. I have other media obligations, and you know how much goes into doing these things. So, but I did have Chris Schmidt on. He is the Hell Varsity Radio there in Lincoln. He used to be my intern when I had a nightly talk show when I lived in Lincoln, and now he's a big shot there. And they do a lot of stuff with the Nebraska football networks and stuff. And I had visited with him early in the season, and he had told me if Frost doesn't have a winning record by October, his contract was up like the 20th of October, he goes, they're going to cut him loose. And he also told me in the same breath, I go, who's your sleeper this year? And he goes, Illinois. And he'd been out to media day and all that, Big Ten media day. But, word is, at least, some ray of sunshine for Husker backers and Husker fans is I think you're probably going to see Thompson play this weekend. Last week I thought Nebraska didn't embarrass himself against a very good Michigan team. We were on a backup quarterback. He went out. We're on a third string quarterback. Our offensive coordinator got knocked out of the game. Mark Whipple, because a player ran out of bounds and hit him and threw him into the bench. And he hurt a knee and a hip and banged his head. And so we had Mickey Joseph not only filling in for Scott Frost, he was filling in as offensive coordinator with no play sheet. But I thought Nebraska's defense held up pretty well. When you're 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out against Michigan and Ann Arbor with that offense, and to be able to hold them under 40 points, I thought was, at this point, as you know, being a Wisconsin fan, I'm looking for the little wins. I'm not looking for the big one. I'm looking for anything that's positive.
It's sad to have to do that too, Tony. I mean, Nebraska is actually barely under the net yards per play at minus 0.12. I mean, that's not as bad as the record. And that's how it always is for Nebraska. And you got Wisconsin here that only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins and 5 losses. And they're a positive 1.3 net yards per play. It's like just the incompetence of these teams is massive, and they're on both sides. Wisconsin can move the ball, but they keep turning it over, especially in the red zone. They just crap on themselves, and Nebraska just doesn't even know how to stop choking in these big games, and they'll make some yards here and there, but they're definitely a worser version. But I will say this, if Casey Thompson plays, I'm guessing Nebraska's the side here, even though we've owned you all these years.
Yeah. A couple things about Wisconsin. Of course, Wade Mosman, who owns Doc's, he's from Sauk City, just north of Madison. You know where that's at. You're a Scotty boy, and he's a Scotty boy. So I've been eating a lot of shit since I started working at Doc's.
You mean fried cheese curds aren't good for you?
Yeah, apparently not. That and fried perch. I mean, I love Wisconsin, but yeah. But I'll tell you something. If you'd have told me 10 years ago that a 5-5 team was coming into Lincoln in November, and they were a 5-5 team in Lincoln, and they were laying 13, I told you are crazy. That is the seventh sign of Armageddon. The seal's been broken. Well, it has. And what's more interesting, the total's 39, and you just put up 10 against Iowa, which, the fact that Iowa put up 24 on you offensively should be concerned to you. But at the end of the day here, I can only, let's see. You put up 33 points the last 2 games, and Nebraska's put up 16. I mean, in their last 2. So I'd probably, if Thompson's playing, I'd lean with the points. I don't think Nebraska can beat you because you guys have set a rushing record against us once. And then 3 years later, you set another rushing record against us, a school record. Both those were in Madison. But the running back you had last year, I think he's still piling up yards against us there, and it was an ugly game for us, and we couldn't stop you, and physical teams give Nebraska a lot of problems. Nebraska's soft up front on both sides of the ball, and if you could shut down Grant in that running game, even if you got to put it on Thompson's shoulders a bet, but if he's not playing, we're probably screwed.
39-point total. I mean, it is that embarrassing between these teams. And it's not like Wisconsin can't score sometimes. It's just that they keep coughing the ball up in the red zone. Their efficiency has been awful. So that's, we probably pounded this enough. It's probably not worth betting. It's a low confidence game. From what I can see. But let's move. Let's ask you real quick. Who do you think makes the college football playoffs, Tony? At this point, there's a lot that can happen, but I have my own 4. I think that's going to make it. What about you?
Here's. I was going to email you this when I got your list. We don't really script these shows, folks. It's just bullet points. I mean, both of us are old savvy media veterans. We could talk about any subject for a half hour, probably not make any sense, but we'll talk about it anyway. But I don't get into all that white noise, mainstream stuff. I don't follow it because I don't think, number one is the AP and the coaches polls don't mean jack crap to me because their odds makers are vastly more smart about, the real difference between teams. Pollsters and all these other political, you get a bunch of jagoffs in there that don't know what they're talking about. And somehow they're on the committee. But at the end of the day, obviously the SEC champion's going to go. The Big Ten champion's going to go, whether they have a loss or not. Same thing with the SEC. I mean, if Georgia was to lose to Kentucky and still play in the title game and win the title, they're going. But I don't see a Pac-12 team in there. Probably 2 SEC teams, and I tell you, you can make a case for TCU if they remain unbeaten. They've done more than almost anybody. I mean, it literally is the Big 12 the SEC. No, but you're talking about a team that's beat 5 ranked teams is still unbeaten, and they were an underdog last week. For whatever reason, I put them out. There's no respect. Sonny Dykes is doing his best coaching job he's ever done. Dugan, in my opinion, was a better quarterback in the game, and he was.
It was a no sweat bet for us, and it was a disrespectful line, and it made no sense whatsoever. Let's just say they get a hiccup and lose to Baylor, and then they win the Big 12, and then USC wins the Pac-12. You put TCU in about ahead of USC because USC has no top wins. Now, I guess they could maybe change that at Notre Dame, but it's not enough because TCU's resume is still better. Now,
Notre Dame, you mean the Notre Dame team that got
beat by Marshall?
Lost to Marshall and should have lost to Cal, and then on a bye week at home lose to Stanford,
and then beat Clemson. So I don't think Clemson belongs either.
Clemson doesn't belong in there. TCU's beating the piss out of there. Sooner or later, this schedule. I mean, this is a tough spot for TCU. And you got Baylor coming off an ass kicking 31-3 last week. That came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So then everybody goes, well, TCU's got a layup now. They're playing a team that just got whacked. No, Baylor had a bad day. Clemson had a bad day. People have bad days. I mean, the Bears last weekend, the Bills, you can go down people have bad days. But for TCU, this is a hell of a spot for them, man. They're coming off that huge win at Texas, and they beat them by worse than what the score indicated. And now you got to play a pissed off Baylor team on there. I mean, this is
Baylor's pissed from last year, Tony, because if they beat TCU and didn't lose by 2 points last year, they're in the college football playoffs last year.
Exactly.
So it's also a revenge game. Yeah, there's no give me's. And if TCU takes care of business, they're in. But here's my 4 that I'm putting in. I think it's Georgia number 1. You can just put Ohio State / Michigan as number 2.
Yeah.
I think that it's probably Ohio State based upon the odds, but I think Tennessee will get in over Ohio State just because of the SEC strength of schedule and the way they ranked LSU. So let's just say if it's Michigan, they're going to get in. If Michigan loses that game, Tennessee jumps them because Michigan's non-conference was terrible. So this is a playoff game next week, and I can't wait for that, by the way.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to say TCU is the 4 seed. So
yeah, I've been impressed with LSU. Obviously, I wasn't last weekend, but then that was to be expected. The Arkansas, those proven to be kind of a bad team because, especially in big spots. But, coming off that win the week before, you expected them to have a down spot. These are still 19-year-old kids. Right. Everybody keeps thinking these are pro athletes. I mean, some of them on the nil deal are getting paid like pro athletes, but at the end of the day, they're 19-year-old kids, and it's tough to get them up, and you're getting everybody's best shot. And the week before, Tennessee had a bad day. They had a bad day, and they turn around and beat Missouri, Missouri should have beat Georgia. I watched that game. They had them by the short and curlies, and they lacked the depth and talent, but Kirby Smart got out coached, even though he won it. He got out coached in that game.
No,
and then
he did. He did.
Tennessee does that to Missouri. I mean, I thought that'd be a tight ball game, and they just put him over their knee and just took him out behind a woodshed and pulled out a can of whoop ass. So, I'm more concerned, as you are, about what's going on point spread wise than I am anything else. But I could clearly see two SEC teams in there, TCU and probably the Big Ten champ. I think you will possibly this weekend, the USC pundits and backers may be silenced. They're going to have a tough time getting by UCLA.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they lose one of those games, and then the Utah game. We'll see what happens. I will say that USC kind of got screwed in that Utah game. That the penalties were completely lopsided, but that's life. That's life, and that's life for playoff teams. And it was set up for the USC, or it was set up for the SEC. So that's always tough to play against as well. And you can see that from throwing LSU over USC this week in this situation. It's almost like they're being treated like Tulane was last week or something. Yeah. I mean, that I don't get me wrong. I don't think Tulane belonged up there, but it's funny how the perception of the Pac-12 is. And hey, the Pac-12 last year went and kicked butt during bowl season. So
I know they did. They did. They had a hell of a year, and Oregon slipped and fell last week. Again, we talk about teams that have bad days. Oregon had a bad day. I mean, they just had a bad day, and Penix is one of the passing leaders in the country. You can't overlook him. He's got a couple wide receivers that up there at Washington play for anybody, and when you don't bring your A game against a team like that, you're going to give up points to a quarterback that good. I mean, he was tearing up the Big Ten when he was at Indiana before he got hurt. I mean, the guy's a hell of a quarterback. So, I think Oregon probably bounces back this week. You got a cheap number on them because of what happened last week. The price of value there with them.
Yeah, you get a cheap number now on them and probably a bet on team coming on out. So we'll see what happens with the Ducks. But let's move into the NFL for sake of time. We're going to cover this massive slate here. And, just a couple sentences per game. If you want to, there's a couple ugly ones you can pass on. But we'll start with the Thursday game. Tennessee Titans versus the Green Bay Packers, and the Packers are -3 at home, -115 in some books. This thing's kind of been locked in the same area for a while now. Total very low, ugly Big Ten total of 41.5. Juice to the under. It's going to be a cold one up there. Anything on this game?
I like the under. This got 17-13 written all over it, and I think go either way. I don't think there's a buy sign on Green Bay. Dallas, speaking about somebody having a bad day, Dallas was 195-0 as a franchise when they're leading by 14 in the fourth quarter. 195 games. They won them all, and they let Aaron Rodgers look like crap all day. The offense looked like crap. And then out of nowhere, 2 big plays is all it took. 2 big plays that changed the game, and Dallas got nervous, and I'm not sold. I don't think there's a buy sign on Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers on NFL Network and Pat McAfee show going, we're going to run the table. And Tennessee, outside of all their games, but 2 have went under. But you take them outside of Kansas City and outside the Buffalo game, and they're an under machine, and Vrabel is doing. He got coach of the year last year. He's in the running this year because he's doing more with less than almost anybody out there.
Yeah, take Tennessee away from the 2 best offenses, and you have an under team. That makes sense. Buffalo and Kansas City. Green Bay definitely had that Brad Allen officiating crew help, where he's a massive home official, so that you could see that. And I tweeted out my disdain for what happened in that game. But it's gonna be a
did
little
see
different
that. I
this
did
week.
see that tweet, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's there's numbers I have on officials, and I think this day and age you got to take a look at every single situation, and these NFL games are hard to beat enough. You try to find as many angles as possible. Let's move on to Cleveland. Oh, my leans to Tennessee because Green Bay can't stop the run. So
That's
I
right.
Just throw it out there.
There you
go. You might wait around to get 3.5 too. So good luck and see what you can do. Cleveland versus Buffalo. This is supposed to be a cold, windy game and possible snow, and that's why you saw this total go from 46 all the way down to 41. And one thing I'm going to say is that the spread didn't move much, Tony. I have my own thoughts why that is. What do you think about this?
Well, they're supposed to get 3 to 5 feet of snow. So they might, and they've had this before where they had to play somewhere and they had to fly Buffalo out of there, go play someplace else. Because, the other team logistically, they called them and said, on Thursday, hey, I can't remember what game it was, but it was a while back, but they said, hey, man, we can't fly in there Saturday. So you guys are going to fly here and play. And so they've done it. But, at the end of the day here, and you probably saw it on Twitter. I think you might even thumbs up. I'm sick of hearing this argument about how great Josh Allen is, how much better he is than Mahomes. And I know we're going to talk about some quarterbacks here in a little while, but just briefly, Josh Allen is the worst quarterback in the NFL when it comes to turnovers in the red zone. There's been some youth and inexperience in big key moments for him. They beat Kansas City earlier this year. Okay, whatever. But at the end of the day here, I don't like the direction they're going. And quite frankly, if they do play up there and it's any amount of wind is over 10 miles an hour, it's advantage Cleveland Browns, because I'll take them with that run game. They're going to keep them off the field. I think, getting 9 or so. I haven't seen the current line, but I'm staying away from the game. But what is it?
It's 8.5, and the total went down, but the dog didn't go down. And that makes sense. Cleveland's got the great rushing offense, and the Bills really only 18th in opponent rush EPA. Yeah. But here's where the reason why it didn't move is because Cleveland's rush EPA. I don't know if you watched last game. I did. Cleveland just got beat by Jeff Wilson all over the ground against Miami. Raheem Mostert, they were getting 9-yard, 15-yard chunks per run. Right. Their rush EPA, it goes like this: Lions 0.046, Chargers 0.053, Eagles 0.059, and then the Browns 0.139. It's like a massive difference between the Eagles and the Browns. If Josh Allen is running the ball the whole game, which he should, just dink and dunk, run, slide. Then they should be able to smoke Cleveland, and that's why the spread didn't move. So I just wanted to point that out on a visual here on the screen.
I don't think there's a lot of value in the game, honestly. I'm staying completely away from it. You might want to I'd be scared. I'd be scared to lay the 9. I'm scared to take it. I'm scared to tease it down, or I'm scared to tease it up. What's that tell you? There's better games to bet.
Let's move on to the Eagles versus the Colts. Colts plus 6.5. It's kind of juiced a little bit towards the Eagles minus 6.5. Now the total is 43.5. And I'll pat myself on the back. I took the plus 9 on Sunday before the Monday night game because I had the Commanders plus 11, and I thought this line would move in my direction because I really was confident about my Commanders bet. And now, lo and behold, Dallas Goedert gets injured for the Eagles, which is a big pass, a big body that catches passes. Now they can just kind of take out A.J. Brown and hope for the best against Devontae Smith. This spread got down lower to where I would bet it because I make the line plus 6.5. You saw that rush EPA stat of the Eagles being second. Now you got Jonathan Taylor here, and you got a old offensive lineman and Jeff Saturday that maybe he did influence this offensive line for the Colts some. I don't know. They sure as hell weren't doing anything before. But this is too low for me to bet now, but I'm going to pass. My number is exactly where it is.
Right.
Is this a pass for you?
Yeah, I think Eagles can beat them by a touchdown. It's sitting on that number. I think they captured lightning in a bottle last week. Colts did. They're still a crappy team. Ryan still turns it over. Philly's going to be in a bad mood. and we'll see. I can't put a lot of stock into anybody beating the Raiders.
Yeah, that's true too. Take that. We tried that once with the Saints, and that didn't work out well the next couple of weeks against Baltimore. Right. And so that's true. Let's move on to the next game then. We have Carolina versus the Ravens. This is a massive spread at -12.5. Sounds like Baker Mayfield's going to be at the helm here. Yeah, getting the ball, trying to work for a job for next year. I think that's a lost cause personally too. Mm-hmm. But total is at really low again, 41-point total. It's funny. You hate laying double digits in the NFL, but I will say that the Ravens are coming off a bye week here, and we've seen the Panthers against this AFC North once against the Bengals, and they were down 35-0 in the first half. So I'm not touching the Carolina Panthers here.
Yeah, I'd get involved with the Ravens off the bye in a teaser, again down to 6.5. They'll beat them by double digits, but I avoid, unless you can make a case for the underdog in double digit games in the NFL. I don't get near a favorite ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a massive favorite, double digits. And, I will say the Ravens have been a little fraudulent this year. Their defense has been very bad, in my opinion, but they at least fixed it a little bit. They got Tyus Bowser back, and now they got Roquan Smith. I don't know what to think.
They look like a completely different team. And who did they play in that game? They played the Saints, didn't they, on a Monday night?
Yeah, they beat the crap out of them.
That's like, I was sitting there with a buddy of mine, my little favorite watering hole sports bar up the street here. Same one you called me up the other day to ask me if I want to do this show on Monday night, I might add, during the game. But I was sitting there. I looked at him. I looked at that Baltimore team. I go, this is a team I'm unfamiliar with. I'm unfamiliar with this team on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, Jackson's always going to keep you in games because he's Lamar Jackson. He's like Mahomes. If he's on the field, you got a chance to go 90 in 3 plays. You just do.
You have a chance to score 3 touchdowns in 1 quarter if you need it. Absolutely. You're always in these games, and that's why you're never going to see these guys as massive dogs ever.
Right. But tease or nothing for me.
Tease or nothing. All right, move on to the Jets-Patriots. I find this game kind of interesting because, and I took a 4 with the Jets. Now it's gone, so forget it. I think 3 is a perfect number, and I'll explain why, Tony.
Go ahead.
Your system handicappers, tread handicappers, whatever you want to call it, are going to like the Patriots because Bill Belichick owns young quarterbacks on the Jets.
Yep.
Your metric handicappers like the Jets because box score analysis says the Jets beat them really, and there's a couple stupid interceptions, blah, blah, blah. There's a big penalty that game, So your metric handicappers like the Jets, your system handicappers like the Patriots, -3 is perfect. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, there was to open up this week, there were 6 games at -3 on the slate, which always makes it real difficult for guys like me and you. So you got to ask yourself now, about 2-3 weeks ago when these guys played, I had a 7-unit top play game of the month on the Patriots, and they won 22-17. And the Patriots' best quarterback that day was, in fact, Zach Wilson from the New York Jets, because he threw 3 massive interceptions and made some really bad decisions. But, the Jets are playing. If they win this, they lead the division. I mean, it's a big game. I mean, I tell you this, I'd probably put them in a teaser +9. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, too. There's offensively freaking I can't trust this quarterback.
38.5's the total. I mean,
I know, but that's there for a reason. I mean, this has got 13-10 written all over it, 17-14 written all over it.
Well, the Patriots are kind of seeing weakness in Buffalo, too, and they probably think they have a shot at this division still, even though neither of them really don't. It's Miami, I think. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think right now, of course, the Jets can lead it because they had such a hot start.
Yeah.
I mean, great points. Both teams should be very vested in this game.
Yeah. It's you know what this thing's going to boil down to? And this week I'm looking at more totals than I am sides because I don't think there's a lot of opportunity in the market on the sides this week. I really don't. You got a bunch at 3, you got a bunch of double digits, or Kansas City laying a huge number. On the just a lot of road favorite, home divisional dogs are catching number. I mean, it's just a voodoo trap. But this is one of those games where, I mean, I can't find any value in it at all. I mean, I just don't have any value. I just don't see it.
Yeah, at the 3, and like you said, it makes it tough on us. I mean, with the worst team in this division, I mean, record-wise, is the Patriots at 5-4. I mean, this is the best division in football right now. You have to say that.
They thought it was going to be the AFC West all year with, the Raiders bringing on Adams and the new offensive guru, and then the Chargers spent all that money on their defense, and they got a great quarterback there, with Allen and Williams, and they've been hurt, and they've stunk it up. And then, Denver are going to get Russell Wilson. They're all going to catch Kansas City. They're finally going to get over the hump against Mahomes and company, and that division stinks except for Kansas City. And I thought this was going to be Buffalo and everybody else, maybe Miami. And right now it's Miami and Buffalo and the Jets, and they're all neck and neck. This is going to go right down the way. You could have 2 teams out of this division in the playoffs.
Jesus, did my Denver under 10? No, it didn't cash yet, but it will be very soon. So
yeah,
that's the easiest money right now. Them and under 10, and Tampa Bay is about to cash too, under 11.5. So I'm very excited about my season win totals coming on. Let's move on to the next one here. We have the Bears versus the Falcons, Tony. Bears are plus 3.5, a little bit of juice at the minus 115, as you can see here on the odds screen. The total is at about 50, right? Little juice to the under now, and I understand it. And I have a play on this game, and I'll give it out here. And you might want to call me a homer and everything, but what's the rule, Tony, when 2 bad teams play each other?
You take the home team,
or you take the points.
Right? You take the points.
Yeah, I'm talking about from a spread perspective.
If the home team's getting points, you make it your game of the year.
Yeah, if the home team's getting points, you definitely do it, and we've been thriving off that. But the Bears got 3.5 points here, and this is a bad Atlanta team here. And the secret to this spread is the total. If the Bears weren't going to put up points, and Atlanta's a true favorite at minus 3, why is the total 50? I think that's the tell on the side of this game. Well, the simple handicap here is that these teams rank about the same in defense. They're both bad in defense. The Falcons rank 26th in EPA against the run. The Bears are 22nd, slightly better against the run. Both are rushing teams. One has the little bit better rushing quarterback with the Bears, but neither team throws the ball well at all. And if you look at the speed, Marcus Mariota can run, but man, nobody's running like Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a fast wide receiver out there. He's outrunning people with the ball as they're trying to chase him. He's a big guy, so he's got the strength. So the weight of his pads don't weigh him down as much as a small defensive back. And that's the only way I can think of it. The dude's been clocked at over 21 miles per hour. The Bears are number 4 in rush EPA per play. The Falcons are number 8. But I mean, Carolina wrote the strip to beat this Falcons team here. You play a little bit of cover 2. You smoke them inside. Just don't let Mariota have the time to throw a big play, and you stack the box. I took the points. 3.5 is way too much, in my opinion. I think that's a stupid line.
Well, the Chicago Bears, and I always tell it like this, was my game of the year last week. So you can imagine my disdain for the Chicago Bears blowing a 14-point lead. First time Detroit's won, being down 14 points in the fourth quarter since 1993. And they dominated them for 3 quarters, and they figure out ways to score 29 a game over their last 3 games and get no wins. I mean, I can't figure it out because their defense is bad. And losing Roquan Smith didn't help me either. You know what, though? All that being said, I take the under. Yeah. I think they're both going to run the ball. Neither quarterback. Mariota, if he's got one guy rushing him, he can't hit grandma at Costco pushing a shopping cart with a ball. He's not a good thrower. That's why he's why they got rid of him at Tennessee. That's why he didn't see the field. And Carr's not a great quarterback out here in Vegas. He was backing him up. You saw him for run plays. He can't throw the ball. And Fields, even though they got Claypool, they haven't established any chemistry. I think Fields probably is a better thrower than Mariota, but he hasn't had an opportunity to do it because he hadn't had anything to work with. So I think you're going to see a lot of smash mouth football, running the ball. You're probably going to see a lot of yards between the 20s. Whoever toughens up in the red zone against the run is probably going to win the ball game.
I hate to say it, but you're right. The way these teams play is going to shade towards the under.
Yeah.
Unless there's big mistakes made, and that's what happened in the Lions game. The Lions were 10-10 at the Bears half. This was trending under, and I had a big overplay at over 48. Yeah. But the thing is that they're both running teams. They're not going to be throwing the ball out. The Bears lost Khalil Herbert, their second best running back that's been playing, 40% of the snaps.
Yeah,
that could hurt them a little bit. They're going to have a guy in there, Ebner, I believe, to replace him. But here's what happened to Atlanta that nobody's talking about. They lost Matt Hennessy, their center, on November 8th, and they got destroyed. They couldn't block anymore. And they also lost Elijah Wilkinson as well. And so their offensive line has massive woes. And so I don't think they're running the ball that well either. So
this could easily be a 2017 ball game.
Yeah, absolutely.
With a huge total. I mean, don't be surprised, folks.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
The Bears in a teaser too.
Yeah, the Bears moving to 9.5 would be a teaser.
3-6, 3-7 in that game. Atlanta can't beat anybody by more than 4 points.
Yeah, I prefer the Bears over a teaser. I think that 3 points is way too much. 3.5 is ridiculous. Take the Bears plus 3.5, 2.5 stars at least on that one. Detroit versus the Giants. The Giants are -3. The total is 45. This is interesting because the Giants are fake news. I mean, let's face it. Even the Giants fans know that they're fake news, but they have a great coach now. They keep covering spreads. You watch the Atlanta game. I was holding on to my Giants -4.5 like this. Houston kept getting in the red zone. I thought one of those would be a touchdown to push it back to 3. It didn't happen. They got some picks, thank God, right? But you could see that the Giants weren't that good of a team. They don't have that good of a defense. Now Detroit, their defense is terrible too, and they're 4th worst in rush EPA on the opponent rush EPA, that is.
Yeah.
They did get a little healthier, but in this situation, it's almost the same rules. Unfortunately, I got a better number than the market's offering. I got Lions 3.5. But I'll tell you this: the Giants are like Syracuse this year. Once they died, they kept dying, right? You know that they're overvalued. I don't know if it's this game, but I'll tell you this: if the Lions do win this game, you're going to be kicking yourself. Wish you made that bet because you're not going to get the same value fading the Giants if the Lions beat them this week, Tony. So
I think this is a barometer game for them. The Lions are confident. I can't remember the last time they won back-to-back games, especially on the road, since their coach just won his.
Well, they beat the Packers, then the Bears. This would be their back-to-back win.
Yeah, I don't see it happening, and I do think that New York's paper tiger, but the problem is the mismatch. The elephant in the room, Saquon Barkley. They're not going to be able to stop him. So whatever his yards are, I haven't seen them for prop bet. Go over. What do you have last week? 150 some?
They're probably massively juiced here.
Yeah,
I'll even
big
pull
time.
up the props. I'm rushing receiving props if they're out yet. They're usually out by Thursday. You'll get the Thursday night game right now, but rush yard, you don't have them out here yet. So I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess in the 90s. I'm gonna say in the 90s.
Yeah, go over, and I think maybe New York. That's a good analogy. The Syracuse analogy. Florida State was a huge play I had last week because it's over for Cuse. Mm-hmm. Florida State's on the come and Cuse is on the go, but and that was on display. 7 points was a joke in that game.
Absolutely.
38-3 final. That was like stealing money. But and I've got another one like that this weekend, public perception. But, at the end of the day here, I will give New York, I will give the two teams that have impressed me the most this year has been New York and Minnesota. And it's not because of their record, but they have their record because they've been able to do a lot of things that the big boys can't do. That's close games. New York can close a game. Minnesota can close out games. And there's something to be said for that, And if this comes down to, pinching nipples, I'll guarantee you I'd rather be in New York's corner than I would Detroit's. And I think Detroit's going to have a lot of trouble, with the physicality that New York has up front. And I also think they have a propensity, and you saw it last week, that Daniel Jones, you might want to take a look at his props in this game because he's going to take off and run it too. And they couldn't stop Fields last week. Is Jones anything like Fields? No. But the kid averages 30-some yards a game running the football because they can't throw it. They don't have a vertical threat at all. But they're going to pound the rock here. And everybody that's played them, Kiev, knows they're going to pound the rock, and they still haven't been able to beat them.
Yeah, I would go with the Daniel Jones prop for sure. I like that better. I just had Derrick Henry's prop up. That's 101 rushing yards. You'll be lucky to get in the 90s, I think, in this game with Saquon Barkley. But the sneaky one, Daniel Jones, that's a good hedge to your play. If you got like the Lions plus 3.5, grab a Daniel Jones for half the size or a quarter the size or something. I mean, you can hit both and still hit your spread. I've been doing that strategy a lot, taking the prop markets for the hedge. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Commanders at the Texans. So my only thing that I'm going to say is that this is a massive overreaction to the Commanders beating the Eagles. Now, don't get me wrong. The Texans are terrible too against the run, but now you got the Commanders in a letdown spot on a short week going into Houston. Houston, as you could see, moved the ball anytime they wanted against the Giants last week. They just couldn't get it in the end zone. Well, I think that gets fixed this week, and I think they probably get a few scores. And I think Damian Pierce is going to run all over this Washington Commanders team. 3.5 is too much. Take 3.5. This is obvious to me.
I agree. Move on. I agree.
Rams Saints minus 4.5, total 38.5. So is Matt Stafford playing? Tony, I don't care. I do not care. I took -4. Look, the Rams offensive line is the worst in football. It's worse than the Bears, believe it or not. But now they injured that. Like there's 2 or 3 tackles on the Rams. AJ Jackson, Chandler Brewer, they're down to like their 3rd, 4th, like they're down to their practice squad, and they're probably hiring more guys from the street just to backfill that. I don't care if Stafford's playing. Cooper Kupp out, that takes away pretty much everything. I think you might want to grab a Tyler Higbee prop because that's going to be the only person that either Stafford or Wolford is able to throw to this whole freaking game. So grab a Higbee prop. But I'm laying. This is a perfect spot for the Saints here to get it right. I'm grabbing the Saints. I grabbed them at -4.
I can't bet. I can't lay 4.5. Andy Dalton, and I don't get. And I'm not on the side play. I'm going to talk about the total, but Andy Dalton, their offensive coordinator, their play calling. The other night when they played, obviously Sean Payton's gone, but here's the deal. When you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield and you're getting your ass handed to you, he is like he's a top 5 fantasy player taken every year. You want to know why? Because the dude makes plays. He is your best playmaker. He got 3 targets in the Baltimore game out of the backfield. You can't run it, so you throw it to him, get him out in space, and make something happen. They're not smart enough to figure that out. I'm not sold on this head coach. I'm not sold on this team. I think Andy Dalton is not on the downside of a career. He's at the bottom of his career. You're better off putting Taysom Hill in there and doing gadget plays than having Andy Dalton running things. And I know, Winston turns it over. We don't put it back in. Well, Andy Dalton's turning it over. And missing wide open receivers in end zones. I like the under here.
I don't disagree with the under at all. I don't care if it's in the 30s. I don't disagree with that.
I'm taking the under here all day long. This could be 10-7.
No, it could be, and it's
going
to be an ugly game. It's going to be an ugly game. I don't even think the Rams can score.
How's LA going to score more than 7, dude? They can't. They're terrible, and now they got nobody. They got nobody.
It's an under game, I think, and I just don't see LA scoring, and that's why I think the Saints are in the good spot to actually finally get one right. But yeah, the Saints are not a good team. It's just that the Rams are that much worse, especially if Stafford's up. It's almost like a free roll. I guarantee you that when Stafford is announced out, this thing passes the 6 or at least hits the 6. So it's like, and if Stafford's in, they still can't throw it.
It could end up being 3-0. You don't cover. Well, the Rams didn't cover. I still didn't cover. 6-0. They kicked 2 field goals. They couldn't do They couldn't do jack crap in the red zone because, quite frankly, the only thing the Rams have got going for them is a defense. If Baltimore gave them trouble in the Superdome, what do you think the Rams defense is going to, despite the ineptness on offense, the injuries, the lack of talent, any chemistry or cohesion? And on the other side,
I saw the Rams against
Colt out of New Orleans.
The Rams against Colt McCoy last week didn't show that well. Against a beat-up Bucs team, it didn't show that well. That Rams defense is also hurt. But you know what? Let's have a little disagreement. You like the points more. I like the favorite more. We haven't had a disagreement yet, so let's leave it at that, man. I like your passion.
In Vegas is steak and a beer on this one.
Let's do that. Let's do a steak and a beer on this one.
I'm going to take the ugly Rams, not because I like them, because I hate the Saints, and I can't lay points with Andy Dalton.
All right, there you go. I'm going to be excited to get that juicy steak from you when I see you up there next time, buddy.
I got Bob Taylor's out here waiting for you. Best steak in town.
Let's move on to the next game. We have the Raiders versus the Broncos. Another ugly game. I'll tell you this. This is disgusting, but you got a quarterback who's crying, and he's probably hearing about that right now by everybody. I mean, everybody's talking about it, right? With Carr in that media press conference. I don't blame him, though. Why not be emotional? You get paid money. You got a lot of stress on you. There's nothing wrong with what he did at all, and I just think that, a lot of people are using it as a fade angle. I don't think so. I think it's a rally angle. I know that they don't got Waller. They don't got a Renfro and a couple other guys, but the Raiders they have very poor coaching, but the team is better than their record. Yet the Broncos are massively beat up themselves. They trade away Chubb. They have some corners that are hurt. Even the Titans beat them in Denver. I say teaser leg for the Raiders. So under, I almost took under 42. It's going down. I'm pissed that I didn't grab it, but I like under and teaser leg.
Yep. I'm with you 100%. And I'd be all over Denver in this game just because the Raiders are such a train wreck. But you hit the nail on the head. The freaking Broncos are beat up. So then you got that. Then you got that going on. We got Judy out. Dude, that's like Judy out. The tight end, their good tight ends banged up.
Yeah, they traded Fant.
And then the other guy they got there bringing along, he got hurt last week a little bit, and he's not 100%. And
KJ Hamler's out.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton. That's it. Double M.
I heard a stat. Somebody was talking the other day. I didn't run it down, but this is an interesting stat on Denver. If Denver would have averaged 18 points per game this year, they'd be 8-1.
Yeah.
That's where they're at. That defense, although they're a little banged up, is so good. And of course, these guys had to go around once already. So I don't know. I like the under.
Yeah. They just lost so much. They do still have a few good on defense to keep this under, in my opinion. I still might even play the under. We'll see what happens. Moving on, we have the Bengals versus the Steelers. Oh, no, sorry. No. Cowboys versus Vikings. I don't want to forget that one. Now, here's the thing. Biggest letdown spot of the year would be the Vikings going back home, after the Buffalo win. Cowboys pissed that they got, officiated out of the game last week. But this is disrespectful. The Vikings and the Cowboys. I have to say that, even though Cousins is not a great quarterback, Justin Jefferson makes him look like a great quarterback. I mean, that guy is just so unstoppable. Yeah, I'm getting closer to playing the Vikings, if anything. I mean, this thing was Dallas, the dog. Now Dallas shouldn't be favored here.
No,
I lean Vikings right now.
It's a square play if you're taking the Vikings, but it's disrespectful. And here's the thing: you're just not 8-1 because you suck. And I'll tell you, I'm not. Number 2 is Kirk Cousins not in a primetime game. When he sucks in those. But at the end of the day, Kirk Cousins can make all the throws. He threw some passes last week that Jefferson made some catches, but a lot of back shoulder throws down the field with the game on the line. It was right on the frickin' money. And Dak, I'm just not. Dallas is. I'm not sold. I'm not sold on McCarthy as a head coach. I think it's disrespectful. It's a square play, but they're at home. And the thing of it is, you say, well, it's a letdown spot. Kiev, how many games have we seen this year and all of last year where it was the last possession of the game and Minnesota was in it? They had to make a field goal. They had to make a touchdown. They had to drive down the field. It's like
last year it was like that too.
Last year and this year, every freaking week, these guys are heart attacks. That's nothing new to them. That's modus operandi for them. Dallas going to be pissed off. Well, so what?
Teaser leg too. +1.5 home dog. Tease them to 7.5. There you go.
7.5, baby. There he is. That's your teaser. Stick that with stick that with the Bears. Lock it in, write it down, take it to the bank, go to Barry's at the bottom of Circa and get a steak with it, baby.
NFC North teaser right from Tony George. Love it, buddy. Yeah. Let's move on to Cincinnati Bengals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh Steelers +4. This line's going down a little bit. The total is 41 here. Here's the deal. My pure number, and this was 5. It was 6.5. Bengals -6.5, but Jamar Chase isn't out, so I do have to penalize a little bit about that. And the number one thing, you got the same ref doing the home Steelers as Brad Allen as the same guy as the Packer game. I'm going to stay away from this one. I almost lean Steelers because of that.
Yeah.
Division game.
I'd lean Steelers in this one. I'm not sold on Cincinnati on the road. And one thing about it, I don't know what the record is, but home divisional underdogs is a huge, almost 70% against the spread angle.
Over the 3 probably.
Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, Pickett's coming around. I think it's going to be a tough one. I think it's going to be a tough one for Cincy. I think they get the win. I think it's a 3-point ball game one way or the other. I'd lean on the points. I'm not telling you to sell grandma's bonds in case in your what's left of your 401k nowadays, but I'd lean there, and I'd definitely lean home dog +10.
Yeah, +4 is a lot, and you can tease it to 10 is what Tony's trying to say. It's a situation where the Steelers, catching some momentum. The Bengals are coming off a bye, which they didn't really need. They were kind of hot before that. I hate teams that are coast into the bye. The bye's not like getting Jamar Chase any healthier because he was out this week anyway. So it's not like they're getting him back because of that bye. So
their bye week killed their momentum.
Yeah, Steelers are nothing for me. I could see that this being backdoored too. They're down 11, get a touchdown, go for 2, and it's 3. That's very possible.
And you got TJ Watt running around again now, and he's a disruptor. Yeah. You got to count that. They're a totally different defense with him in the ball game, buddy.
Chiefs Chargers +6.5, total 50.5. I hate to say it. The Chargers are so banged up. You can't do anything until you see if Mike Williams or Keenan Allen's going to be playing in this game. I think Mike Williams might come back from when I looked at the injury report, but it's a division game, another home dog situation. I can't bet the Chiefs here. I think the Chiefs are a better team. I can't bet the Chiefs here.
I'm watching this as a fan.
Yeah.
I don't know who's playing now. Allen and Williams both suited for practice today. I just saw that. But their defensive line, they lost. They were down to practice squad players against the Niners the other night. And you don't have a defensive line against Kansas City, you're going to get your ass kicked.
I don't know how the hell they covered that game. They were outgained by over 150 yards. It was just more ineptness from San Fran coming off a bye, which you thought they'd be buttoned up, but they weren't. They were the opposite. They were rusty off the bye, which kind of pissed me off. And then now you're looking at a big spread, coming to this next game. So I do want to say that I do have the injury report up here, and I want to just pull up the Chargers here just to kind of see where it is. I mean, this is so important, I think, to this line is having someone to throw the ball because they lost Gerald Everett, from what I'm understanding. At least he's banged up. He's questionable, says day to day, but you don't know. I mean, he was the lifesaver, but if Keenan Allen, I would say he might still be out. I would say Mike Williams will probably play. But right now, if I get one of these guys back and I know Everett's playing, I would probably play. I would probably play the 6.5. It'd be a good answer.
I would too. A home divisional dog again. Kansas City didn't look all that sharp against Jacksonville, but it's hard to get up for Jacksonville. They did cover a 9.5 number, winning by 10, but going on the road, this was a 3-point ball game. Over might be a play here at 50 and a half. Last I saw, I haven't looked this morning, but it's going to be scored 47 the first time around in Kansas City.
It's 50.5 still. So it's,
it might lean over if Williams is. Herbert's a great quarterback, man. He's a great quarterback. Eckert is problem. And Kansas City does have problems with running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. So there's a prop bet for this game. You might want to look at receiving yards for Eckert. Running back. If you wanted to hedge it and play Kansas City. But, I'm not going to lay 6.5 on the road with Kansas City. They're looking to get out of here with the win and call it good.
Yeah,
and San Diego's so beat up. Their defensive line is decimated, dude.
Right. No, Chargers are nothing. Let's move. And they need this game more than Kansas City. Niners, Cardinals. Niners -8. The question of the Cardinals is Kyler Murray playing? Obviously, I think this thing drops down to 7 if he does. I don't know if it goes to 6.5 or not, but probably it might. I mean, they're at home, but there isn't really much of a home field advantage for the Cardinals.
Well, we're playing in Mexico.
What's that?
This is in Mexico City.
oh yeah. It's a Monday night game in Mexico, isn't it? Yeah. There's no home field at all then. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I wasn't thinking I knew that earlier.
Just informing your listeners, I'm just informing everybody.
Look at you, just full of knowledge. Not that I was giving them home field advantage anyway, but the Niners is a good teaser leg. I don't see them losing this game either way. I think the Cardinals, they couldn't stop the Seahawks when they ran Walker down their throat. So I can't see how they're a path to victory if the Niners just are just semi-competent this game. That's all you need, and they got way healthier. Now, there is a DeAndre Hopkins factor that you got to throw in because you saw the Kansas City Chiefs just pulverize the Niners over the air. So you get a little worried about that, and that's why I don't like the spread as much. I think the Niners come up to a 2-touchdown lead at some point. Probably gets backdoored at some point, but I think that I can't take it at -8, but a teaser leg is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I just think if Murray doesn't play, they'll beat him by 14. If Murray plays, I don't know how bad that hammy is, and the NFL injury reports, you're pulling up there and scrolling down. Same thing with NBA. You can't trust me further. You can throw a building. No one's going to tip their hand till the last second. And by then, it's too late. And
you saw that this week plenty with the Colts with Matt Ryan, which pissed off a lot of people. And I had an inclination the whole week that it was going to be Ryan. And everyone's like, no way. But that was completely right, my inclination. But I wish I would have bet it. And number 2, Josh Allen, the shenanigans there was absolutely ridiculous. It was something's got to give later for that. And I ranted enough about that in the last podcast. But speaking of quarterbacks, buddy, let's give our top 3 quarterbacks. And mine's probably pretty similar to yours. Give me your top 3.
Tua, Mahomes, Allen.
All right, Tua. You give Tua a lot of props there. Mine's Mahomes. I think Tua just benefits from his receivers there. Now, is Tua's numbers great? Yes, because he has Tyreek freaking Hill. But I there's no way that Mahomes is not my number one quarterback. Josh Allen is definitely the best running quarterback right now, but as far as like what a quarterback does, I can't make him not my number one. I probably put him at number 3, and I would put definitely Mahomes first. Before the year, I probably would have said Herbert, but it's not him either.
No.
It's Joe Burrow's number 2 for me. I think I like what Joe Burrow does.
I like what he's doing. I can get that. I got him at 4, and I got Hurts at 5 just because of the way he's playing, running with his legs. I mean, he had a bad night the other night, but he's looked good all year.
I got him at 4.
I just think Tua and Mahomes. I'm sick of this argument that, well, we lost Tyreek Hill. We're not. Well, okay. So, and I'm a Kansas City boy. I admit it, and I'm just going to defend him 1 second. Look, without Tyreek Hill, Kansas City has the best record in the American Football Conference. They're on top of the mountain right now.
He was worth way more than what I knew. Yeah, he was worth more than I knew to this team, in my opinion. Tyreek Hill was just ridiculous.
But you've got this Tommy, we got Juju Smith-Schuster, Watson, Kelsey, the other guy that we Scantling,
Tony, Kadarius Toney.
We got weapons, baby. I mean, he's got options. And by the way, I don't think you're going to see Schuster this week for Kansas City when you're looking at that game against the Chargers. But at the end of the day here, I just think that Patrick Mahomes is he's a magical playmaker. You're always in the ball game with him. You're in the ball game if you got Lamar Jackson. The way Jalen Hurts has played up until Monday night, you'd figure if you're in a tight ball game, who do you want at quarterback? And Tua is just surrounded by playmakers. Everything. Great tight end, 2 good wide receivers, great offensive line, 2 good running backs. The coach calls good plays. I mean, Tua just, and I think you saw his value, Kiev. When he didn't play, they were losing. When he come back, they win everything. I think it's just, I wasn't that high on him, but right now he's the most valuable player on his team because they can't win without him.
They're covering massive spreads. And Tony, it is the end of the day, my man. And you did a great job on this show. Thank you so much for coming on. Where could our listeners and viewers get your great information and plays?
DocSports.com. Just go over there. 95% of the stuff over there is free. 99% of it's free. There's just a ton of great information. World Cup, they had a great article on their day about how to bet and your angles for World Cup soccer. I hate soccer. I ain't betting it. I don't know anything about it, but it's just a great plethora of information over there for you to digest. Free play videos. Of course, find me on YouTube. Just type in Doc Sports, Twitter at TGeorgeSports, and that's where you find me, baby. I'm out and about there. I'm out. I've been around the block once or twice. You can find me.
Make sure you check out Tony George. Thanks again for coming on, Tony.
You bet. See you later, bud.